Audio control. Okay. Alright. So, action, I guess. Motherfucking action. So this is my take on the Lordus build. I think Demo's ran it through already. Where it excels, where it falls off. Basically the max damage Thurcal with a bit of MC. I run Potion UT these days, but 80 MC, 50 Potion UT. Ability to use lances, any weapon of your choice. One of the strongest enclosed room fighters in the game. So I guess that's where we'll start. Duel. We're doing it hella scuffed. Alright. Dueling, it is literally, especially if you have Stig, there isn't a better build in the game. Like, there actually isn't. It's fucking busted. Truly. Like, it's almost unfair. I wouldn't recommend starting with this build if you want to become the best duelist possible. Because it's kind of like you might get bad habits. Like, a lot of people start on Thurcal and they just learn to trade because you have more HP than everyone else. You do more damage than everyone else. You take less melee damage than everyone else when Adamant is in its standard state. And you also use less stamina to swing, which ends up being huge with the Clade Indefatigable. So there's actually quite... If you're trying to be the best player possible, I wouldn't start dueling with this. But at the end of the day, it is the best dueling build. So if you're in an enclosed room with any other build in the game, you naturally have a ginormous advantage. So that's where I'd start with duel. Let's do some of the F shit. I think skill cap. It kind of depends. In team fights, it can be. In team fights, the skill cap. Hold on, let me turn down this music. In team fights, the skill cap I would actually say is like A, because surviving on this build is very hard. As you've probably already heard, it's the largest build in the game. Very, very obvious. Quite slow. When the majority of the people you're fighting are Ogmirs, Velas, and mages in the backline, you are the first person targeted every time. So if you're planning to team fight with this build, you need an extremely good grasp on positioning, when you're safe to go in and do damage, when you need to peel, when you should be saving stamina. I'd say team fight wise, it's actually a super high skill cap build. However, when it comes to like one-on-one fights, it's like F. So I think because of that, I'm going to put its skill cap in B. Okay? I think that's fair. For team fights, I'd say it's A or S minus. Honestly, like it's really hard to be an effective Thursar in team fights. Which is where I'll put the next one up. Team fights, C. Now, it's C because while it can be effective, this build specifically, with Stig, okay? With Stig, is pretty fucking bad in team fights, okay? It's pretty bad in team fights. Why is that? Because you take way less heals than every other class in the game, and you're the most likely to take damage out of your entire team. You're like sustain. You don't decide when your sustain is with Stig. So you might have loads of time where you're 100% HP, but those moments where you take a lot of burst damage and you need heals really badly, it's crazy important that you're able to get heals in. So personally, this build specifically, I have another build, which is my teamfight Thursa, inverted commas, which has no Stig. And I think that puts it up to like an A, or maybe even S+. Because if you have a full lineup, let's say, I don't know, a 50-man lineup, you've got 3 mages, the majority of you've got 3 mages, let's say, you've got 2 Velas, you've got 2 humans, DKs, you probably want 7 or 6 Ogmirs and maybe 1 or 2 Thursars, because Thursars are the best backline peelers in the game. You can do an absolutely insane amount of damage, but you can't chase kills. So you just want to do a lot of damage and then send people back to the front line. But specifically with the Lordus build, I don't do that much, because this build is more based around, which brings me to my next, playing solo. Now, I'm going to put this in B. Maybe even, actually, you know what? Fuck that. I'm going to put it between B and A. Now, why is that? Out of all the Thursar builds in the game, I think mine is one of the best solo. Usually the problem with Thursar is you can't chase. However, you've got MC, so you can. So if you learn to play stamina, say you're fighting a Vila, and the Vila will always be able to run away from you. If they know what they're doing, they know how to use their clades, they can always get away and reset. However, if you understand how stamina works, understand how holding works, if you get them low, you can hold attacks on them, force them to reset their parry, which is a net negative on their stam. If they do get distance on you and you've got your horse alive, you get on your horse. While you're riding on them, you regen your stam. You can swing on them to force them to parry again, removing their stam, stopping them, and park your horse, get on top of them, full stamina again. It's actually really good. If you run into a mage in a 1v1, for instance, if you run into a mage without MC, unless they're a bad mage, you will die. If you have MC, you actually have a chance. Because the one thing that really, the mounted build that actually wrecks mages in the game is mounted combat. Now, mounted combat's actually pretty hard, but once you get the hang of it, it can be super effective in team fights too. That's why I have Stig on this build. Because are you going to be catching many heals on your horse? Not really. Not really. So you run with with Stig on your horse, you're constantly regenning. Someone in chat just said, I don't know, maybe a bow. You always have a bow on this build. However, if you understand how footy stamina works, okay, Mr. Mage in chat, if you understand how footy stamina works, if you ever expect to land that kill, unless you hit some godly shots, and I'm pretty good with the goddamn longbow, unless you hit some godly shots, right, they'll just find some cover, you'll be pinging at them, they'll put on a tower shield, spin around. All the while, they're getting their stamina back. And what's happening to your stam? It's fucking tanking. It's absolutely tanking. Because longbow uses a lot of stamina, sorry. So you should have a longbow with this build at all times. But it's more of a horse remover, a finisher, it can be an opener, and it can be something you use against mages. But I truly do say the amount of idiots, I'm just going to say it now, the amount of idiots who say, oh, there's a mage there, just pull out a longbow. Okay, let's see your fucking montage of hitting 5 shots in a row, out DPSing their heals, and keeping your stamina up. Hint, you won't. It doesn't exist, okay? No one does that. Literally doesn't exist. Especially if you're solo. I've been asking for years. Well, a year. No one's done it, okay? PvP, I'd say I'd put this in A, just for the reasons I said below. Maybe it's A/B, just because mages will a good mage will always push your shit in, like no question. But if you know what you're doing, you can, in a lot of small scale fights, you are the scariest person there. You just hit like a fucking truck. PvE, literally S tier, like. The most insane PvE build in the game. You can, if you have one mage, no Stig, you can duo a lot of the endgame bosses. You can solo the entire Riser dungeon with ease. It's the easiest build to PvE on as melee. No question. You do the most damage, you see the most, you use the least stam, you take the least damage. The only time I'd say otherwise is if there are if there's caster mobs, they will push your shit in. Okay. I think with offense, I'm gonna have to put offense in B, just because in an enclosed room or in a situation where people want to fight you, insanely good. But if you main a Thursar and you're a known Thursar, you'll find the majority of people just fucking run away from you, which is fair, right? You don't want to deal with this build. So that's where I'd put it in a B. That kind of looks like defense, but it's offense, okay? So we cross that bitch out. Defense. Now, I don't really know how to term this. You're pretty fucking solid in the odd situation where you're against all melee builds. However, if there's a single mage, if there is I don't know, if there's a situation where you think I don't want to take that, the majority of the time they're going to catch your ass. Like, you can't leave. You can never leave, okay? That's something you gotta understand. If you ever play Thursar, you remove your ability to reset. So that's where I'd put defense in D. Just because a single mage will push your shit in. However, at the same time, you gotta remember, when it's melee, when it's all melee, you have... You are the best in defense and offense. But that's only in the situations where it's all melee. So that's something you should keep in mind. Like, this is a very melee-oriented build. 1v1, it depends. Again, as I said before, dual S+. 1v1 versus most builds, if they're playing well, I don't know. I'd usually put this in like E, just because most classes can run away. You can catch Ogmirs and humans, and mages. A good mage will kill you, no question. Unless you become really good at Thursar, a good mage should kill you. However, with the MC, I might bump that up to a D. You've just got a few more options with that. If you understand how to play your horse's life, how to play your horse's stamina, it's really effective. 1vx, I know I'm going to keep going over this, but in melee, S+, best 1vx build for melee. The amount of people who play pure melee builds is very low. So, I'm going to have to put that in C. Just for the mere fact that, like, most people you run into have some kind of magic capability. They drop 1 T-Lash on your ass, that's a quarter of your HP bar. Okay? So it's not ideal. Another problem with 1vx as well, and where Velas and Ogmirs might actually do have an edge, is they're a lot smaller. So what you'll see a lot of the best players do, just due to player collision in this game, what you'll see a lot of the best players do is they move between their opponents. When they're the 1vx, they move between their opponents, force team hits, and things like that. That's much harder to do when you are literally the largest fuck in the game. There isn't a larger build. Like, you are it. You are the biggest. Okay, you have to accept that. So, while you can make insane 1vx plays, especially against all melees, I can't put it really above C for those reasons. Dollar. What does this one mean, Demo? I'm exposing myself. What does this one mean? Is this how expensive is the build? I mean, getting it up to a low tier level, very fucking cheap, honestly. Like, as long as you're not trying to endgame it, it's kind of cheap. So I'm going to do dollar early. Like, if you just want a sewer run, farm bandits, maybe cut out the MC. Okay, I got it. Okay. You know what? I'll put that to late. So early on, super fucking cheap, okay? Because you do damage with everything. Like, you could get a bone tissue maul and go into the Riser dungeon and clear that shit. 1v1s and duels are different. But later on, if you actually want to be effective, here's my average loadout. If I'm going out to be effective and wanting to win. a 125 horse, full steel armor, 2 pots, 1 purify, 1 magic reflect pot, hot food, a cron sword or tongue steel axe or whatever equivalent. What else? Health food, stam food, longbow, lance, MC weapon. Half your fucking inventory is just filled with shit that you need. Okay? Like, I'm not even joking. Half my inventory is just different weapons. People kill me and it's pinata. They get so much shit. So that's why I'd say early on, super cheap. If you love the build and want to be effective later on, pretty fucking expensive. I think my average kit is 300 to 500 gold. Okay. Crafting, there's nothing particularly good with Thursars in crafting, so I'm going to put this in F. Like, as opposed to other builds, they literally don't have any crafting clades. I do alchemy on the Thursar because I'm an RPer. There's no value. Literally no value. As opposed to other builds where you get certain clades, you get profession points, you get none of that. Literally none of it. We got that. Uptime. Uptime, I'm going to need a hint on. Utility is E. Very much E. I guess the only utility I have on my build is I can purify myself. Dead stats? Actually none. So if there's no dead stats at all, because I don't think there are any dead stats for Thursar. Oh, okay, I got you. Right, so you've got around 160 dead stats then, because you need MC. So I'd put it in B, I guess, right? And you got to consider as well, the main downfall of a lot of pure mounted builds, who should beat you, by the way, but the main downfall of a lot of pure mounted builds is as soon as that horse is dead, they're fucking useless. What makes this build so special is you're at full footy, you just have a little bit of mounted, right? So you can do stuff with your mount, but as soon as you're on the floor, you're still a Thursar foot fighter. Like, you're terrifying. Thursars usually have extra points. That's why you see a lot of people run. I mean, on my team fight Thursar, I have Arc Bond. A lot of people run 2 weapons or a pole sword, poleaxe. Some people even have tames. I'd say with my builds, the uptime is like, I'd say A tier. B tier, A tier. I think I'll put it at B tier. Yeah, it's like the only time you've technically got a dead stat is if you don't have a horse, and this is still an S tier build in dungeons. So fun. This is a tough one. This is a tough one. I'm gonna put it in A personally. As soon as you try the forbidden fruit that is Thursar as a melee enjoyer, you will never want to go back. Truly. You will never ever want to go back. You are the scariest guy. So fucking scary. You 2-shot people. I see a skeleton mage, I catch him out, I will kill him through mercy. Guaranteed. Add in trinkets to the top of that, like the damage numbers, big number go bigger, basically. If you like big number go bigger, the fun is A tier, maybe even S tier. However, it can also be one of the most frustrating builds. But that's specific situations. Like, you run into a Vila who you're shitting on, they go and reset like 15 times. That's pretty frustrating, especially when you're early on, or if you don't understand how to use your MC to stop that. If you run into a good mage, you're going to want to jump off the nearest high object, to be honest. There's not much you can do, really. So overall, I think if you enjoy roaming, but you also enjoy melee foot fighting, you want to see big numbers, you essentially are happy to run away from every mage you see, unless you get good enough where you think, oh, I can take this on. I think overall I'm going to put it at... I honestly think with the recent buffs, it's an A tier build. I think it's an A tier build, truly. You've got a little more survivability with the adamant change. You've got around 30-ish psych now. That's not to be sniffed at. You're, again, so strong in enclosed room melee encounters. And, yeah, I think that's fair. Let me just talk to chat. Have I got any of this wrong? People are calling me a loser. Yeah, you might say it's a loser build. Let me guess. You play fucking Ogmir. Pal. Who's the real loser? Piss off. Piss the fuck off. Wait, 46 after the initial install? Oh my god, I'm gonna have to uninstall shit. 1vx S tier. You reckon, Ducker? But what if there's one mage? So I put in C. The last thing I'd quickly mention is trinkets, because this is something that I think people would want to know. If you are this build, your armor weight is around 27.1-ish, 27.06, something around that. Okay? If you have that much armor weight, you don't even need free armor weight to wear full steel. You might do if you want to wear full Og or full tongue. Personally, I'd say just throw a couple Chronite pieces in there and keep it around the 27 mark, because you want, and I'm telling you right now, try it, you'll see, you really, really want to prioritize getting physical defense stats on your amulet. It is so strong. I'll quickly explain it, I've done it many times. The way it works, it doesn't reduce the damage output by 9%, say, that's the max. It multiplies your armor stats by 9%. So if you're wearing a steel set and you have 999, you are multiplying all of those stats on the steel set by 9%. For some reason, I think it might have a interaction with Advent as well, I'm not sure, but you end up taking just so little damage. The average sword swing with, I think I've got like a 9/ or like 8/7 blunt, 8 pierce or something. And I tell you, I take so little damage compared to other classes. It's really crazy. So that's what I'd recommend. If you're playing this build, forget about free armor weight. They're very expensive because people are starting to cotton on to how good they are, but gun for a physical defense Ruba. If you can get that with at least 6 in every stat, or like 2 9s, for instance, that is banging. Banging for your build. Super good. Other than that, for rings, you always want to prioritize damage percent. The last thing I'd say is, if you can, the ideal Thursar ring would have, or at least one of your rings has just 1 raw strength. That's all you need, just 1 raw strength. That'll bump you up to 35%. So on all of my builds, I have at least 1 silver ring with good damage, with 1 raw strength, and that puts me up to 35. And you're a god walking. Like, I hit people so hard. It's disgusting, truly. Okay, I'll take a quick look. Perfect. That's actually amazing. So here we are. So I think this is fair. I think this is fair. Some areas people might disagree with is probably skill cap. Like literally, if it's a melee or melee fight, a duel, the skill cap goes down to like fucking F. All right, literally F. But if you're out there solo, I've taken on groups of 4 and 5, playing this with mages, using the MC, or team fighting with it. I think it's closer to like A, S minus. So it's really, it depends on the situation. But if all you're doing is going to Fab Square and grabbing a fucking flake sword and spamming people down, your skill cap is like fucking Z tier. All right. Please don't do that. Please don't just be that Thursar. You're ruining all of our rep. All right. If you're just going in sewers and slaying noobs in 3 shots, Z. Let me just read what demo wrote. People pick parts. The reason I put 1v1 to the death in D tier, as opposed to 1vx, is in most situations, if you're in a 3-in-1, no matter what composition they have, no matter if you're equally skilled players, you will lose. You will lose, right? However, Thursar has the bonus of, if those guys are mostly melee, you've actually got a really good fucking chance to win. Like, say if it's 3 Velas, you could smash them. You could seriously smash them. Open world 1v1 to the death, I put it here because half the time it's not to the death because they can decide to leave whenever they want. Again, unless you learn to play your mounted really well. And then past that, if it's a good mage of equal skill to you, you lose. You truly do just lose. Like, there's not much you can do. It's the antithesis to your build. So that's why I'd put it there. Feel free to disagree. I feel like I've explained why though, so people can at least, you could put it in your own tier. I don't think the actual A or S really matters, just as long as you get the gist of the build. This is the melee dominator. It's really nice mounted. You've got a lot of things that you can do past the standard Thursar build, which is I go sewers, I farm bandit camp, I have Stig. With this build, you've got lances with 0 skill invested because you do enough damage. That's huge. That's huge. You can go into a team fight with 100 people and you can have insane value just lancing mages in the back. Probably more value than anyone else there. Other than tactician elementalist mages, of course. So I think that's where I put it. You know, slay me all you want. Slay me all you want. But that's where I would put it. The Lordus build. Helping demo with a video on the Lordus build. But yeah, super fun build. Really, really fun. Only thing I would finish on, if you're a brand new player, if you are brand new to the game, I probably would not start with this. It can be really rough at times, really fucking rough. And it's not just gonna make you win every duel. You can run into a good Vela who's gonna, you know, shit on you. Okay. But if you like the look of the Thursar, you like being a tool motherfucker, you like having the best POV, I think it's one of the best Thursar builds going. If you're interested as well in the interplanetary build, exactly the same. Remove Stig, okay? Remove Stig, just get the extra stat bonuses, and instead of mounted, take Arc Bond. And that is truly, if you throw a spear in that hand, add trinkets, add a defense trinket, have Arc Bond running, that's one of the best team fighting builds in the game. Easily. If you understand how to play the backline, you are vital. You are vital. You can pass. Top damage, easily. Yeah, Valdex, yeah, that's perfect. Roller coaster is, you can have the highest of highs and truly depths. Fucking depths. So, yeah. Have fun with it. Have fun with it. Let me know how it goes. And yeah, thank you for demo for showcasing the build. All right, sounds good. Sounds good. Sounds good. Sounds good. All right, I hope that helps, man. Awesome demo.